I think we're good. Lights, camera, action, bitches. Sorry, I'm just finishing my snack here. Some fried chicken, the working man's dinner. It is late in the afternoon. Busy day at work, so trying to get this video going as soon as possible. Got nothing in my teeth. You notice, like, with fast food now, I'm trying to cut back, but do y'all notice, like, the appeal of fast food for the longest time was that it was fast and cheap, and now it seems to be neither fast or cheap. Kind of defeats the purpose. It's like you have an impact on your health for a higher price now. At least it was like a double-edged sword, you know. You got to eat for really cheap, but it wasn't healthy for you. Now it's like double impact, one on your health and then one on your wallet. Well, it's pretty good. I went to Harvey's here. Not a bad franchise here in Canada, and it's convenient and not bad. I find it's like better than McDonald's and shit like that. So just enjoyed that little meal, and also rocking a Rockstar, as one does, for a little pick-me-up. I should get Rockstar to sponsor some of these videos, although on a few videos, and I still do advocate for cutting back and not consuming a lot of these drinks. I've cut back a lot. I used to drink at least one a day, sometimes two. Now it's like down to like 2 a week, 3 per week, including weekends. So like maybe one every 2-3 days I'll have on certain days to treat myself and whatnot. But yeah, that's all part of working on the road as a tradesman. I'm a locksmith, for those of you who are new. I mostly do commercial buildings, a lot of lock and door work, door hardware. So it can get busy. You know, you get these periods of time when you're swamped, and then you have periods of a slowdown. And yeah, you just go with the flow, do what you can, and hope to stay busy so you could pay all your bills. And yeah, kind of in between jobs and just driving around today, I was just thinking, like, and this may be influenced by some of the other content I've been consuming. Some of it's maybe more negative in terms of economic problems and middle class people really struggling. And I'm sure there's a lot of validity to it. I don't think people that are posting videos about them struggling with affordability and struggling with career and job and finding jobs and paying bills and inflation and all that, that's all real. I don't want to dismiss that. But it seems to me, you don't want to talk about it. My apologies. It seems to me like maybe the worst combination, and I'll let you debate this in the comments. I'm just asking a question. The worst combination in today's day and age in 2026 out here in the West, in North America, is the worst possible combination being a middle-aged man that's middle class, that's blue-collar worker. I don't know. It seems like it's kind of the worst bang for your buck. It's almost, we're the ones that work really hard, but yet, not saying we don't get any return on investment, but it's kind of a poor ROI, return on investment, because blue collar people tend to be the ones that work extra hours, work overtime, take the least maybe vacations. We have the most physical jobs, like a lot of construction jobs, physically demanding. A lot of these jobs require early morning start times, sometimes working late, not a lot of vacation time, especially when you run your own business like me. I always kind of have to be available for clients. I can't really, at this stage in my business, I'm still trying to get more clients and trying to build a even better reputation. So I always want to be available. I don't want to be the guy that's always out of town when people need me. So that's part of it too. And it seems like we have to put in a lot of time and effort and physical work for a livable wage, and some do better than others, but I don't know if you average it out. It's not like people in my position that are in the trades that we're really getting ahead, that we're really killing it at life and saving a lot, building up a big safety net of dollars for retirement or a nice vacation where we can like leave the country for 3 weeks. See, I used to be able to do that, but that was all on borrowed money, and I learning that lesson the hard way. I had no business going to Europe for like a month when I was in my 20s, but it was all like lines of credit and borrowed, and I was living at home, so I did save up some spending money, cash to spend while I was there, but a lot of the flights and accommodations and all that traveling was borrowed. It was all on credit, and went through a whole phase. I got some old videos in my channel. I talk about some of my adventures as a younger man. But now that I'm older and middle-aged and working hard and seemingly have less than I've ever had, even though I have a condo that's like sort of paid off, other than that, still making payments on this vehicle I use for work. The expenses are high, and as you know, everything's gone up. Fuel costs, and that affects tradespeople the most because we have to do service calls, so we have to put in a lot of miles. Then if you're a gig worker, you might be a middle class guy, and now these exploding fuel prices are affecting your bottom line. You're going to struggle even harder now that this is happening. Wars and geopolitics and stupid companies and corruption and all that bullshit. The guys in the middle are mostly affected. So I don't know if we're in the best spot being middle-aged and middle class. And then it affects other things too, like there's the economic stuff, but then there's also like the dating market. When you're middle-aged, maybe it gets a little bit more difficult. Your options dwindle down a bit. You may be out of the market for some of the girls in their 20s that you may be interested in. Although, I don't know, that aspect might be a little more difficult for women, and I know that's crazy to say, but it's still a little more acceptable and more realistic, and it's a more common practice that an older guy would date a younger woman. Now, I'm not saying I agree with like these 20 to 30 year gaps, really, but it is possibly more difficult for a woman to get like a relationship if she's in her 40s and 50s. Trying to get a relationship with like a 25 or 30-year-old guy is more difficult than a guy who is a bit older, but maybe he's still in decent shape, makes decent money, and he finds a girl that prefers older men, and then maybe that 10, 15, maybe 20-year pushing it gap is still acceptable in some ways. So maybe guys have a slight advantage there, but overall, like, it's hard for any guy, any generation, age, income bracket. It's hard. Dating is hard now for all guys. It's like very hard to find somebody because the market is just been flipped on its head the last 10 years with these dating apps, and it's been, men are getting disqualified a lot quicker and easier now with these filters, and the problem with dating apps is you don't see the person in real life, so you kind of have to disqualify and filter out by very superficial things, very shallow things, just kind of facts and not nuance. You know, you look at these obvious things that show up on dating profiles like income and height and the way a person looks and all that, their age. Whereas those, when you meet in real life, it's like there's a little more, people are a little more forgiving. Like, I mean, a woman could put like on her dating profile, limit 35 for the oldest guy she'll date, and she's maybe 25. But then, you know, she meets a guy and he's like 38 or something, but they like really hit it off. She really likes him. I don't think she's going to go like, nah, you're like just a couple of years. You don't meet the criteria. And so nothing's going to happen. Now, I don't think it works that way. I think people are way more forgiving and have a lot more leeway and are more reasonable when you meet them in real life. So that's why people my age, like even 15 years ago when I started trying to get dates and stuff, it was a lot easier to find somebody to hook up with or to get laid or to ask out on a date, get a friends with benefits or girlfriend. All that shit was easier back in the day when we used to go out. People used to go out a lot more, and they still do, but not to nearly the degree that we used to go out and socialize. Bars and clubs and house parties and social events, weddings. Like, no one goes to this kind of shit anymore. People aren't getting married as much, and if they are, they're opting for these little private things where they don't have big gatherings because it's very expensive, and also people's brains have melted since COVID. So now I think there's still like this residual effect of people avoiding large crowds. And yeah, everything's done online now. Like, most dating is done online. So I think that's a big disadvantage for middle-aged men. And especially being middle class, our income bracket, we're not really going to stand out on dating apps. We're in like the middle 60 or 70% that makes just your average, whatever, blue collar labor, physical labor type job, you know, between 45 and 75,000. I don't know what the number is, but even 75, 80,000 doesn't really stick out on a dating app. These girls are like, what really like piques their interest and their attention is when you see the 6-figure number and even higher, like the 150 to 200K, which is funny because like making 200 grand a year, you're in such a small percent. Like, you're literally in like with less than the top 10% makes 200 or $250,000 a year. You're in like the top 5% or some bullshit. So these women are looking for a sliver of like what's available. And yeah, everyone's just kind of expectations are just whack. They're just out of place. So that affects us middle-aged guys. And the reason I say we might have it the worst, like worse than Gen Z and worse than boomers, is because like economically Gen Z, and I know they're having a hard time, like college and stuff is overpriced and a lot of degrees are useless. There's no guarantees of jobs, but at least they have an extra 20 years on us, 25 years to make something happen, to build a life, to build wealth, to put money aside. Being middle-aged, if you haven't saved a bunch of money yet, it's kind of like, it's going to be really difficult. You have maybe 20 years left in the workforce. That's me. I've got maybe, probably closer to 25. Can't believe I have to do this shit for like 25 more years before I retire. I'm like halfway through my career. Oh, it kind of hurts to think about that. But yeah, as a guy in your 20s, if you're watching, you have time to get this stuff figured out. And you're still young enough you could stay with your parents live with them. You're not really forced to go out and pay rent because that's really expensive now. And it's hard for anyone in their 20s to really be independent, be on their own. You've got the high cost of groceries and rent, and then the lack of jobs. So, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe Gen Z and middle-aged have it just as bad. Maybe Gen Z even has it worse. Yeah, I mean, if you think about the dating aspect of it, us middle-aged guys, Generation X, at least we had our time. We had our fun when people were going out and the world was a much more dynamic and interesting place socially. Like when people used to meet each other in real life, we weren't burdened by stupid dating apps and social media. So we kind of had our fun. And like, even when I started going out, we were still writing phone numbers on a piece of pen and paper or on a pack of cigarettes. Shortly after that is when flip phones came out and we were able to save the number in there. But that was like before smartphones. So we didn't have all like the fancy contacts and all the texting and people do now. But those were good times. And being middle-aged, I guess you can look back on that and be thankful and even draw from that experience you had being social, having the in-person interaction and having that experience under your belt, which maybe people in Gen Z don't have. A lot of them just have like this rudimentary knowledge of like basic social skills in person because they just live online. They live on smartphones and apps on their social media, so they don't interact quite the same as my generation does in real life. And the dating market being as difficult as it is, possibly Gen Z men have it worse because they're getting into the cooked and disadvantaged dating market right off the jump. They don't have that time that we had, right? They're just stepping right into the shit. Getting thrown right into the cold end of the swimming pool, in the deep end. And they have to live in that world and try to date in that world of social media and dating sites and higher expectations, feminism, and all these disadvantages that men seem to have now in that marketplace. Gen Z are starting off at that point. As with middle-aged guys, we are in that cold end of the pool now, but at least we had our time. And like I say, we could draw experience and use it to our advantage when we do meet people in real life. And I really hope it's going back to that. Like, I hope even the younger generation, there's a shift away from social media and away from dating apps. I think everyone's getting frustrated with them. Women aren't finding what they want on there. Men are not matching with anybody. And when they do, it's like less than desirable options. It's slim pickings out there. Slim pickings for the ladies, and for men, there's not a lot of slim to pick from. See what I did there? Not a lot of slim ladies for you fellows out there. If you live in the States, isn't like 40% of the people overweight in your country? Canada's not too far behind. We're a little less fat because we live in like a cold climate, so I think like the shock proteins like burn fat or whatever. I don't know how that works, but I guess you lose weight a little easier when you're cold or something. I don't know. That's another video. So I don't know. I'm kind of exploring this idea as I go. Is middle-aged, middle-class men, are they in the worst position now? And we're also underappreciated, and it seems like, yeah, like we don't get a lot of return on investment, like I was saying. And I don't know if like it's case by case, everybody's different. Yeah, and it's with the boomers, you know, they don't have it that easy either, but why I kind of excluded them was they grew up in a time, well, when they were coming up in their jobs and careers, they didn't have this affordability crisis. I guess there kind of was in the 70s with like inflation, but I don't know how much that affected people. I know that boomers bought their houses for really cheap, and they had a lot of opportunities to save money for investments. And now today, boomers already have their safety nets and their nest eggs and their house paid off for. They have assets. They've had long careers. You know, maybe they are higher up. They've climbed the corporate ladder. They are in higher positions in their companies. They're maybe collecting retirement from the government, plus retirement from maybe their union that they worked at, or their big corporation they worked at for like 30, 40 years. Because back in the day, people would stick with a job or career a lot longer. You'd start with a company when you're 19 years old and you'd be there till you're 65. And then you have like this nice pension. And I think a lot of boomers are reaping the rewards of that. And like I say, they bought all their assets when they were cheap, and now they're at such a high value that a lot of boomers don't really have to worry about money and day-to-day bills. But I'm not going to say all boomers. There is a segment of our seniors population that are struggling. Here in Canada, I know that when you're a senior and you're retired, if you don't have a really good pension from your working days, just relying on the government pension is very unreliable. It's pretty small, and with the rents going up and the food costs and all that, a lot of seniors are struggling in this country. It's difficult because they're on this fixed income, so they're trying to make it work. And I know they like increase the amounts they receive a little bit, but it's not keeping up with just how the cost of everything has exploded. So I'm not saying all boomers have it easy. A lot of them that were professionals and that worked a long time and saved money, they're doing well now, and they're in a different spot than us Gen X guys who are really like in the middle of the shitstorm right now. We're in the middle of this uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. Guys are losing their jobs, and that's maybe the worst time to lose a job is when you're middle aged, because you still have a long way to go. You still have a long hill to climb, and being knocked down like that with a job loss or wage cut or stuff like that is pretty bad when you're middle aged, as opposed to if you're young, you know, maybe you could still live at home, or you're just getting started with your career. It's not so bad. You still have a lifetime to recover and catch up. And I mean, let's face it, when you're in your 20s, life is more fun. You have more things you could do. You have more energy. When you're middle aged, the energy levels start to change, and you're not as virile and you're not as spry as you once were. And that makes it harder, because even if you want to work more and earn extra money and save a little more, that gets more difficult just because you don't have the energy to work those extra hours. So yeah, it's kind of like purgatory. Like you can't, there's no clear advantage to being middle-aged and middle class. Like, what is the glaring benefit that I should be excited about now? I can't really think of one. Maybe you could think of one. Maybe just that I lived through a fun time with, if you watch my last video about nostalgia and how I reject and discard almost all of new entertainment content. Maybe just being able to appreciate what I've lived through and the fun experiences I've had. I can carry those with me through the next day to day, and just be grateful for that, I suppose. And yeah, just this middle class thing, it's a part of the population that's disappearing. We're almost getting pushed into the, like, I remember the middle class was separated in 2 or 3 different levels. Like, you'd have the upper middle class, which were your more educated people, like your doctors, engineers, maybe lawyers in that category. Just, you know, people that went to university and got their degrees and got a good job, and, you know, worked for a good company that gave them a good salary. Those people were upper middle class. You could afford a nice house, you know, 3-4 bedrooms, kind of your average to slightly above average size. You couldn't afford a mansion or a couple of luxury cars. Maybe you could get one luxury car that you really invest in and pay over the next 6 or 7 years. But yeah, you would have a couple decent vehicles. You could raise kids. Would be no problem, especially if you and the spouse were both educated. Then that would be no issue. And then you'd have like your middle class, which is like people like me, tradesmen, just your everyday blue collar workers or retail type jobs, lower management, like restaurant managers or teachers or whatever. That'd be that category. And then kind of like your lower middle class, which were, yeah, maybe like fast food workers or retail jobs, part-time workers. Those would kind of be your more poor, kind of struggling, but still maybe within the middle class. But now I don't even know what it is. It seems like almost everyone is struggling. Like even the upper middle class can't afford the lifestyle they once did. Like even they're saving money now, which is crazy. Like these middle-aged, like people my age that have good educations that I know that I keep in touch with, they're like, oh, we were going to go on this holiday, but it's too expensive. We got to be careful. I'm like, really? Like, you're an engineer and you're a psychologist? Like, I know a couple that the guy's an engineer and she's a psychiatrist or psychologist, I'm not sure. But that's a good double income. They're what's known as dinks, double income, no kids. And I was like, really? They're having trouble saving money? It's like, what the hell chance do I have? This is crazy. But I don't know what their like situation is. That they could have other issues, or they might have other expenses that I don't know about. So you can't really judge that, but still, just as a small example. And yeah, it seems like the poor are getting poorer, and of course the rich are getting richer. And then you have your homeless, your impoverished class, and that segment is growing. It's getting bigger. There's more homeless than there has ever been. There's more people going to the seeking services from the food bank and government assistance programs, all that stuff, which is, we have pretty good in Canada. I mean, we're like, I don't really live in like, I live in Alberta, so it's a little bit different. There's other provinces that are a little more socialist, let's say. But yeah, Canada has its issues, and people here are struggling. It's got its problems. But yeah, when I see like homeless people, it's like, I'm grateful for what I have. I have a skill set. I have a job that I can do. I'm running my own show here, working for myself, being my own boss. So I should be grateful for that, even though sometimes the money isn't great. I'm doing side hustles and just trying to make it as best I can. And it is like so hard to really put money away every month, because you need it for your bills and for your day-to-day life and running a business expenses. Then I look at the people who are like poor that go to shelters and all that, and I'm grateful that I'm not in that category. Although it is funny, it's like we're overtaxed. Like we pay too much tax, in my opinion, and that's the other shitty part about being middle class. Like we seem to bear the brunt of the taxes, and I think it's completely unfair for people like me people like you, who work really hard and don't earn like a ton of money, but yet we get taxed a lot. It's like, seriously, can't you just let us keep more of our hard-earned money? And then you look at like homeless or these really poor people, they don't really pay taxes because a lot of them don't work. They're just like government assistants on welfare or whatever. And then you have the millionaire, billionaire class, which obviously us middle class, middle-aged guys are not part of. You look at them and it's like they almost have stuff in common with the homeless, because neither really pay taxes like the middle class does. I mean, yes, rich people do pay a lot of taxes, but they have more power and more ability to use loopholes. They have, like, when you have a lot of money, it's easy to make more money, and you can also invest in securing the money you have a lot better and a lot more efficiently. These guys have offshore accounts. They can invest in appreciating assets. They can hide their money easier. They know they can hire people to like really nitpick and really fine-tooth comb through these tax laws, and they could save them every dollar that they can. So even like these millionaires don't pay a lot in taxes. Like they do in personal income, but like a lot of that they can hide like through companies and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of stuff they do. So like the rich don't pay a lot of tax in that regard. But it's also like it's all relative, because if a person making $50,000 a year is paying $10,000 in tax, that's like a huge chunk of your income, and it's like $10,000 is a lot for a person like me. So you're left with 40, and like you're missing like kind of a big chunk, right? It's all going to the government, and it seems like really unfair. Along with all these other sales taxes, and if you own property, you got to pay property taxes. But with a rich person, now they may pay a lot more taxes than you, but relative to what they are earning, it's like, okay, if you have $10 million in your bank and you have to pay $3 million in tax, it's like, okay, yeah, $3 million is a lot of money to the government to pay in tax. I get it. But you still have $7 million in your bank account. So who's doing better, me with 40 grand or you with 7 million? So that's where the middle class really, like, it's like bend over, you know what I mean? That red and white Canadian dick penetrated through the backside. Yeah, it's hard out there. I don't know what to say exactly, but some days it just feels like the worst combination. Work hard, you don't get to keep a lot. But at the same time, you know, I rag on my country here, Canada, and it's got a lot of problems. Like I mentioned, the overtax, and there's crime issues, there's poverty issues, homeless, immigration is a problem. And that's another thing that's affecting middle class men, is even the ones, and Gen Z maybe even more so, the young men that are born and raised here, most of they'd like to get retail and fast food jobs, but most of those jobs are being taken by foreigners from the third world. It just is what it is. It's a temporary foreign worker program. And now the born and bred Canadian guys here have to just basically stay at home. It's hard for them to find, I'm sure a lot of these guys would like to work a job in the summertime between high school years or between high school and college, help save some money for your tuition or for just spending money where you can help your local economy and maybe save up for a vehicle that you can buy when you're 20 or 21 years old, when you're in university. But no, like those jobs just aren't available. Like almost every place you go to, other than this Harvey's, these are suburban college kids, I think. But that's pretty rare. I'm in like a suburb of a big city right now. But yeah, it's all like 90% of these places are people from the Philippines or East India or the Middle East or Africa. And that's just what it is. And that's our Canadian government. They have these programs, and I'm sure they're colluding with bigger corporations to hire cheap labor. And I don't blame like the immigrants. Like, I'm actually an immigrant, but I was raised in Canada. I came here as a toddler from Croatia. But I've been, working and paying taxes here ever since I was like 18. So I don't blame like these people that come here. Like, it is a better place than where they're from. And as much as I like shit on Canada and all its problems, and trust me, they do have those, and I'd like to see this become an even better place. But at the end of the day, this is still not a terrible place to live. I mean, millions of people come here for a reason. United States is similar. People are coming over in large numbers for a better way, for more opportunity. And I don't mind it here. It's not a bad life. It's a good place to live. I'd still consider it first world, in my opinion. Every building here is heated and air conditioned. There's running water everywhere. I have a nice cozy little condo, roof over my head. I got hot running water 24 hours a day. I got appliances. I can make food whenever I want. We got consumer choice like you wouldn't believe. Restaurants, more than you could shake a stick at. I actually live like more in the center of the city, where I could literally walk to 3 different grocery places and bakeries and convenience stores, liquor stores, all that stuff within walking distance. And it's convenience, and it's a good life. You can't really complain all that much. I will complain about crackheads and social disorder and all that bullshit that I hope we can get better. I'd like to stay optimistic, even though now it seems like it's not getting any better, but we'll see what happens in the coming years. Maybe leadership has to change. Maybe we have to have a collective shift where we say enough is enough and we deserve better. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it's easy and it's difficult at the same time. I don't know. It's all a contradiction. Canada sucks, but Canada's also awesome at the same time, depending on which angle you look at it from. I mean, especially here in Alberta, there still seems to be a lot of work. The economy still seems okay. I have some friends here, and my mom's still around, my dad's still around, and I have a business here that's going okay. It's up and down, but it's pretty consistent, so I'm fairly confident that it's not going to really crash and burn anytime. And I have the experience I have a skill set that I can apply and apply for other jobs, and there's options for me. So, and I'm relatively healthy, even though I'm drinking a Rockstar. That's very important as well, to stay as healthy as you can so you can work, so you don't end up being on disability or something. And that's one of the good things, like in Canada, you know, I mentioned we have all this consumer choice, and like the services are pretty good here. Like whether you're going to get a driver's license or just needing help with anything. There's going to be times when you get shitty service. It kind of depends who you deal with specifically on what any given day. Like it could be bad. Hospitals, you know, where hospitals are kind of overrun. So you could end up having bad luck and having a terrible experience, or it could be a really good experience where you show up and someone's there to help you right away. And it's like quote unquote free healthcare, even though you are paying for it through your higher taxes. And it's an okay system. It's not the best healthcare in the world, I don't think, but it's there. There's a lot of hospitals you can go to around here. You know, it's not like you're going to be shut out or refused or anything. And, you know, we do have like pretty good assistance programs, social programs. I'm not like a huge fan of welfare and all that, but I think a reasonable amount. If you do end up in dire straits where you're in a very hard position, you can reach out to at least try get some help from the government. So that's kind of a good thing. But I'm more of like just a working man, more of a capitalist, like free market guy. So I'm not like a huge fan of like all these welfare programs, but there are some that seem like reasonable. Like if you get hurt or something, there's somebody to look after you, and there's insurance for that as well. So you don't really need government, and I like smaller government. But having like zero government or anarchy, I don't know about that. I'm not smart enough like politically or know all these systems in and out, socialism, capitalism. I know the basics, and I know that capitalism has helped me because it has allowed me to run my own business, and they're not taking everything away from me. So I have freedom to have as many clients as I want. I have the freedom to charge the money I want, and the market will decide whether I survive or not some government. And yeah, overall, you know, life is pretty good here. The landscapes in Canada are amazing. Some of the most beautiful in the world. Rocky Mountains, Great Lakes, prairies. A lot of stuff to do. We have pretty good communities with a lot of sporting things, a lot of recreation centers, you know, sports and outdoorsy stuff is huge here. So overall, it's not a bad place. And we have all like the stuff that, like for the most part, what you have in America, like there's Home Depot is right here, and like all that shit that everyone has, Walmart, Home Depot, all the fast food chains, and all the different, you could buy whatever type of vehicle you want. You can even buy cyber trucks in Canada. I see them around. But yeah, it's all good for the most part, but it's fun to express some of the hardships as well and some of the realities of what's going on. And I don't know, let me know what you think. Middle class, middle age, is it the worst place to be? Is it in the middle? Like, could it be worse? I don't know. That's all I have for today. Just thought I'd have a little chat about it, and I'll let you digest that. And yeah, we'll just move onward and upward to the next one. Please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave a super thanks so I could get some more fried chicken and another rock star. So you could tip me that way. You could tip. I don't tip. What do you mean you don't tip? I don't believe in it. You don't tip someone at McDonald's. You're Mr. Pink. Yeah, I love fried chicken. Los Pollos Hermanos. Breaking Bad reference. All right, well, that's it, folks, for today. God bless you. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for the love and support. Peace. We will see you on the next one. Denny, goodbye.